Hey, Pete Hendricks here, HCC, Hendricks Classics, gonna show you how to shave today. So, let's assume I just hopped out of the shower, which I did. First thing I'm gonna do is run some hot water, and let me turn this so you can see. Okay, so I just run my hand under the water and then touch it on my face. So I'm just keeping some moisture on my face, and then I'm going to put some of the shave balm on. And so this is going to help continue to soften the whiskers. You put just a little bit more. Okay. And as I do other tasks, I want to keep this moist. And so let me back up for a moment. Let's say you didn't shower first, or even if you did shower first. The first thing you do, whether you shower or not, is get a bar of soap and a washcloth. And it can be soft soap, and it doesn't have to be a washcloth. It could be one of those other things, but it can't be your hands. And what you want to do is take the soapy washcloth, and of course this one's dry, but you just want to gently wash your face with it. And that would be the first thing in the shower or at the sink if you're not showering. What that does, it removes the natural oil from your beard. It gets rid of skin that's dead. It exfoliates the skin. And it also gets rid of the staph bacteria, which is a natural part of the human flora and not something you want to be shoving down into your hair follicles. Okay, so you wash your face, and you have to keep it moist and wet with your balm for at least 3 minutes. For most men, 3 minutes is enough. There are some men where it will take longer. And so you can, while you're doing this, I just added a little bit more water, and you can work on other tasks like brushing your teeth or, whatever else you do while you're in the bathroom. And I have had enough time, I believe, because I shower beforehand. And so next we're going to go with the shave stick. Now, the way to use the shave stick is to just have the soap extended. And one thing you'll notice, it goes on thicker the first time because your whiskers are longer. Now, all of us get a little shaving irritation once in a while, and I'm no exception, and there's some right here. So I just want you all to be aware of that. I wanted to shave with a little irritation so you all can see how to handle it. So I've rubbed that on my face. I just wet my hands like I showed you. I'm putting some more water. And that looks pretty good. I'm surprised. Usually I need to apply water once, rub it in, and then apply water again. But today that wasn't necessary. And you don't need a shaving brush with this soap. though it helps out a little bit. And most of our customers coming from cartridges, we didn't include a brush in the initial kit because it's not needed and we don't want to overwhelm people. But that is an option as you go down the road. Okay, so time to shave. There is no reason whatever to be intimidated by this single blade razor. First of all, don't be intimidated by the razor blades. You deal with things much more dangerous every day. The key is just to respect them. And so what you'll notice, I'm going to use what I call the lightest of light touches. I want you to notice how my skin is not rippling. You'll notice that the razor is not being pressed into my skin enough to indent it. The primary reason that people that get shaving irritation, number one is lack of pre-shave prep, and we covered that at the beginning. The other reason is pressing too hard. Very light touch is all that's needed. Now, as I'm doing this, the way that shaving works is you want the blade coming into contact with the whiskers, but not your skin, because when the blade starts contacting the skin, that's when you start getting cuts and nicks and irritation. So I am both listening and feeling, and you can hear on video, you can hear my whiskers being cut. So I'm listening for that, and as I go further into the shave, I pay really close attention, because if I'm not feeling and hearing whiskers being cut, I don't want to shave over that area anymore. So going around the jaw, and with the jaw so you can see I'm kind of holding it with two fingers and letting it rotate. Of course, it's not rotating that much. And so the 90-degree strokes are fine on the jaws. They're not as efficient around the chin. And so when I'm getting to the chin, I start coming at an angle. I call it a 45-degree angle, though I don't know if that's a helpful. Now, you'll notice sometimes that I'm running the razor over skin that doesn't have any foam on it. And once you go over it, there is a certain amount of period where you'll still get good cushion and glide. However, I'm feeling for that, and I do not run a razor over my face once there's no cushion and glide. So, and I am both feeling and listening for the optimal angle of the razor. And you'll notice that here on the bottom of my neck, that's the bottom of the lower neck, is every man's trouble spot. And what I do is I save it for last, and so I really focus. I lean my head away and stretch the skin. I really focus, very light touch. Now over here is that shaving irritation, so I'm going to just kind of go around it. And the reason I don't like to do strokes from here all the way down is that there's a tendency when you get toward the bottom to not keep the razor at the right angle, and the lower neck is where people have trouble. So, now my hope is that I'm not going to have to shave over the lower neck again. I would rather have not quite as close of a shave and not go over it again. And I did not achieve that. So, at different times when you shave, you may want a different level of closeness. If I were shaving, getting ready for work, I've done one pass, I would put the soap on again and do touch-ups on the areas that need it. Though in this video, I'm going to do a full shave. I wouldn't do this all the time, it takes longer. Okay, and so on the second pass, I'm going to go against the grain. The first pass I went with the grain. Now everybody's whiskers grow in a different little direction and it changes on your face. But in general, I've gone with the grain. Now I'm going across the grain. Okay, now watch with the jaw and chin how I'm just going straight around. I'm coming at it from a different angle. And you'll notice I'm being very careful for that lightest of light touches. People have a natural tendency to press too hard, and that does not give you a better shave, and it brings the razor blade into contact with your skin, which is going to cause trouble of some kind. Okay, so shaving around the face, most men are going to have the thickest whiskers up here. And so on this second one, I'm going to, you don't need to stretch the skin. However, I don't know if those are dimples or what, but if I don't flatten the skin, I'll nick myself. So, okay. Now, shaving under the nose. It takes a while to get the hang of this. So what I want to do is I don't want to come in at too steep of an angle or I will nick myself. And so it's cutting, but not in the most aggressive angle. And as I go through with the strokes here and feel, I might go a little more aggressive. On me, this skin cuts really, really easily. And so I'm really careful. And so hopefully you could see how angling the razor to, get right around the nose. And you'll notice how high up I hold this. Like, if this were a baseball bat, I'd be choking up on it a bunch. The reason for that is, first of all, I want no pressure on the skin. I don't mean to be a broken record, but that causes most of the trouble. There. Now, I'm going to go across the grain. For me, down here means going straight up on the second pass. So think about if you have ever had a home where you have to cut the grass. If the grass gets too tall, you have to raise the lawnmower. You can't cut it all the way down. You raise the lawnmower, cut it at a higher level, and then come back and lower the lawnmower and cut it at a lower level. And that is how you shave. You don't go for everything. Now, on the right side of my neck, there were some whiskers I didn't get. Normally, I would not go over this area. Not as close as I'd like, but it's close enough. And so now, back to straight up. Over here, we have that irritation, so I'm going to do my best to go around it. Now, usually this would be the end. I've done 2 passes. I will go ahead today. I'm going to do a third pass against the grain to show you how to do that. Now, some men can't shave against the grain. Some men can shave against the grain, but it takes a while to get the skill to do that. And when I say it takes a while to get the skill, it takes a while to get used to not pressing too hard and to keeping the angle correct. Okay, so with using the brush, there are circular motions which are not really needed on the third pass, and then paintbrush motions. The nose is done. I won't shave right up under that. Now, with your shave soap, it needs enough water. You don't want too much water or you'll sling it all over everywhere and it runs all over, but you do need enough. And I'm just running the brush under water to get a little, and then this is adding it back in. I'm not sure if you can see it in the camera, but the lather starts shining, and when it starts shining, you are at the sweet spot. Now, against the grain, like I say, a lot of men can't do this. Very light touch. This is where you start nicking yourself. So, now. And I raise my head to stretch the skin a little. And remember, everybody's whiskers grow a little bit differently, so these actual angles might not be against the grain for you. Because under the jaw is an easy area for me to nick myself, I'm going to put a little more soap. There's probably still enough cushion and glide from before, but just to be careful. And I'm really listening and feeling for whether whiskers are cutting, because this is when they're short and you'll run into trouble. And one thing you may have noticed earlier, and you'll notice now, is that I use different angles at different places. Even within strokes, I'll change. You notice how that skin's not being indented. Okay. Now, I'm going to do one more go across the grain again around my mouth. And now, the most troublesome area for most guys going against the grain is the mustache area, and it's fine not to do it. You certainly don't have to. Okay. Then I take a washcloth and wet it. I felt that. Okay. Not sure if you can see it. There is just a tiny bit of red. Tiny little nick. And so, and I'm glad that happened. So I can show you how to use a Styptic pencil. I just took like a little piece of chalk. I just wet it and make sure it stops bleeding. I caught that really quickly after it happened. I wouldn't call that a nick. That's called a weeper. And I caught it, and it will be as though it didn't happen. Like, you know, a lot of the times you'll get a nick or a weeper, and, you know, the next day you can see it. There, it's scabbing. And if you catch it immediately with Styptic, that's it. I mean, it's as though it disappears. Okay. Doing a final inspection. That's a great, close, comfortable shave. So now I'm going to rinse my face with cold water or cool. You know, if you live in the north in the middle of winter, it doesn't have to be totally cold, but you want it cooler. Now, you also always want to make sure you get the soap off, and it has a tendency to stay some. You'll have a tendency to have some residual down below the neckline, and the problem with that is it will cause you to break out. And so I always, and after I rinse, I gently wipe that, then I go over with my hands again, just make sure I got all the soap. You know, some areas, if you have, I don't know what it is, I guess it's hard water. After you get the soap off, it still feels slippery. It's not like that here. There. And then the final thing is to take some of the shave balm. The shave balm's an important part of the shave. You put it on before and you put it on after. It doesn't take a whole lot. That's a gracious plenty.